Hi everybody, I'm artist Micah Goguen, and today we'll be looking at some fun and exciting ways to create these beautiful ethereal landscapes on panel. We'll be using the 8x10 gel plate in combination with the texture combs to create these fun and exciting landscapes with mark making and expressive strokes. All right, so let's get started with our ethereal landscape on panel. So the panel allows us to do a lot of scratching and mark making, and we've got this really high contrast background. So I'm going to show you how to do this. We're going to start with a panel that's already been gessoed, and we're going to prime it by taking a little bit of a fluorescent high flow color, and I'm just going to stain the panel by putting a little bit on and then just rubbing it in with a brush and paper towel. I'm going to wet and then just kind of smear that so that I have this really high contrast background. Okay, and once I get the pink on, I can just take a soft paper towel and just kind of rub over the top just to make sure that it's kind of buffed in and solid. Okay, now I've got a pretty even flow, and then I'll let that dry a little bit. Okay, so now our panel is stained with the high flow acrylic, the fluorescent pink. I'm just going to set that aside. And you can see here that I have my 8x10 GelPress gel plate that I have actually laid on top of a color copy image. So the image is taped down and I have the plate on top so I can see through it like a transparency. And I have some slow drying acrylic here. I have a few colors. I have titanium white, I have a Hansa yellow opaque, I have a phthalo blue, quinacridone magenta, and a little bit of bone black. But really any primary colors plus white and black will work for this process. And I like the slow drying acrylics because they give me more workability on the plate. I'm also going to be using one of the texture combs, and I'm just going to be using a number 6 flat brush, and that'll get the job going and help me out on my plate here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to paint exactly what I see. I'm going to wet the brush slightly so that the bristles are moist but not overly saturated. And I'm going to paint dark to light, which means that I'm going to go in with my black. And because I see the black there, I'm just going to go in and start with the grooves within the tree. And I'm just going to kind of wispy, put a little bit of dark there. Put a little bit there, there. Everywhere that I see dark, I'm just going to put a little bit of the black in. Okay. Then I'm going to move to a little bit of a warm color. I'm seeing a brown, so I'm just going to take a little bit of the quinacridone and the yellow, and I just didn't even clean my brush so that the black is still in there. And notice how I'm depositing it, but I'm not touching the already deposited black. I'm going near it, but not on it. And I'm just patting. And when I'm doing the motion, I'm going to take the flat brush and I'm going to create a pat motion with the paint so that I'm pulling the paint down. Okay, and I am just pat, flip, pat, flip. That way I can get the paint in different areas without, over pressing. And I'm just going to put some even strokes. I want the paint to be a combination between not too thick and not too transparent, and you just know that by application. You'll just have to see what works for you. But I want a little bit of texture, but I don't want it globbed on because then I won't be able to see the combination of what I'm doing. And so I'm just taking a combination of colors here, and I'll get a little bit more red as I move toward the surface of the painting. All right, and once I get what I'm calling my warm colors in, then I can go back and start to address the spots where the black actually blends in. So now I'm just going to kind of blend that together to make it look a little bit more ethereal and dreamy. Soft edges are what help give it an ethereal look. The difference between soft and hard edges is that you can't really tell the transition where the black begins and the kind of burnt orange color ends. And if you notice, I've got peaks and valleys of high tones and low tones. That way there's a transition between the two. It's not just flat color. Okay, and I've got a good application with my trees. Now I'm going to fill in the space in between, and it's a little bit lighter, so I'm taking some yellow and a little bit of white, and you can make up your own color combination so that you can do what's right for you. I am going to bring a little bit of that warmth in there, but I do want it to be more predominantly yellow than it was the last time. So I've got a little bit of that tone, and again I'm going in between the colors so that I don't want to mix it yet. I want my color to stay as closely to the pure color that I'm trying to achieve as I can. And so I'm just depositing in between, and once I feel like I've got the color in, then I can start bridging the gap where I flow the color into the existing colors. And then I'll just keep addressing the print. And so now all I've got left are blue tones. So I'm going to come in and take a little bit of my phthalo, and the phthalo is really powerful, so I don't want to use a lot, and I'll use a lot of my white to tone it down a little bit. And I'm just going to glaze across my sky first with the lightest bit, and it doesn't matter the brush strokes, you know, it doesn't matter the directions. I'm just trying to put a little bit of the color down. And when the brush is wetter, it actually creates a beaded look on the plate, which you can already see is happening, and I really love that. I enjoy having the texture on the plate that the water creates, so it's almost like a resist. So I'm not scared of that. It's not that I'm trying to do a thick application or a smooth coat. I'm just trying to get a foundation down. So there we go, got a little bit of white on there. I'm going to put a little bit here on the base, and then I'll take a little bit more blue and come through here with the water. Again, I'm not touching the edge until I get the shape down. Then I'll go back and bridge the gap. Bridge the gap. And just very quick and free with my strokes. I don't really want to get too involved or overthink the process too much. Okay, now I only have this little bit of blue left, so I'm just going to increase my proportion of blue. Alright, so now that the plate is pretty much covered, I can double check. I think I've got a couple of little spots down here that I missed. So I'll just take a warm color, it doesn't really matter, and deposit some down here. Okay, and I've got pretty smooth coverage on the plate. So I'm going to bring in my panel, toned pink, and I'm just going to flip that upside down, and I'm going to register with my thumb and my fingers. So I have not actually dropped the panel on the plate yet. I'm using my fingers to make sure that the corners are registered as good as I can, and registration means that the panel and the plate are lined up. That's why they're exactly the same size. And then I'm going to drop it. Now, because this is a rigid surface, I can't really press on this because of the air bubbles that will be created with the plate. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pull the tape up, and I'm going to flip the panel over. So I'm just supporting from underneath like I'm flipping a sheet cake, and I'm actually going to put the press on the paper side so that I can feel the plate, so that I can remove any air bubbles that might be within the plate. And you could pull back the image if you like for a look, right? I can take a look and see how it looks under the plate and make sure there's no bubbles. And you see that high contrast background, right? So I'm going to go ahead and just take the image off, and then I can peel back the plate. Okay? Now, the image is reflexive now, but I'm still going to use it to denote the value that's going to be in the piece so that I can determine what I'd like to do direction-wise with the painting. So I see here that it's got a lot more of the solid values in, so the gel plate, because it printed so thinly, is going to have a little bit of value missing from the side. So I'm going to add a little bit of a focal point using some more of the dark. And the cool thing about these slow drying acrylics and the plate is I want to save some of the great texture marks from the plate, but I'd also like to add some solidarity with brush strokes. So I'm going to add in some paint to solidify the shape and to create a little bit of my darkness. Now, the closer I get to my focal point, the more solid I want to make it, just so that I can draw the viewer in. And this is the same process where I'm also just kind of solidifying around the trees to bring the viewer in, still patting the brush, but leaving a lot of the gel plate effects. Now I'm going to go around the tree and I'm going to take a little bit more of the white, a little dash of the blue. I want it to be a very faint blue. And I'm going to start around the pink, because the more of the pink that I kind of get rid of closer to the focal point, which, you know, is this big cluster of trees, then the more I'm going to attract the viewer there. So I'm going to put most of my intense white right around there, just for a deposit. And this is something I like to call deposit and tickle. So I just deposit the thick color down, and then I go back and actually just smear the image. So I'm going to cover a good bit of the pink, but it's not super thick. So that way I can just leave some energetic brush strokes showing. Okay, so thick, but not super thick. And then I'm going to get a little brighter around the tree again, so another little pat of additional strokes. And I might choose to just solidify a little bit of the blue here. Just deepen it as it goes down. Again, just to get rid of a little bit of the pink. I love the pink being there, but it's about painting over some, but leaving the effects that could only be achieved with the plate. Okay, so now that I have a good bit of energy going, I'm going to take the texture comb and I'm just going to create some swipes. And so I'm going to start with some arc stripes that are in the back, and then I'll just wipe the excess off on a paper towel. And then I might even take another set and just kind of smudge some of the boundaries, maybe drag some through that very lightly, just to get a little bit more of the pink showing, just to kind of mark through. And then we can always come back and augment the strokes with just a little bit more paint, and just kind of bring to closer attention anything that we wanted to salvage as far as color or tone that we enjoy, so that you have some of the marks but nothing too excessive. I'm going to mix up a little bit of a lighter white and yellow combo, and I'm just going to put something a little bit more golden down here in the bottom, just to again just amplify the viewer's attention. Okay, and then I'll take my semi-dry brush and I'm just going to fade these edges together so that it looks like a little, you know, added dream. Just tickle those edges together, make a real playful, soft edge. And then I can take the back of my brush and I'm just going to draw some additional mark making. So we'll just pretend like there's some grass down here that we can just squiggle some continuous marks, just to add to the mark making. Maybe have some playful marks with the trees, just to add a little bit of extra of that drawing element. Maybe a few down here. And then I'm going to look for any kind of cohesion and balance. And I might just add a little bit more blue down here, but I'm making it a soft, muted blue so that I have a little bit more traction between. Alright, and that is our ethereal landscape on panel. You just pop it in a frame and you're ready to go. So join us for more videos coming up.